Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:02. Welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Public Safety Meeting, January 13th, 2022. Thank you all for attending. Let's call roll. Scott Mandel, I'm here. Patty Kirby.
Here.
And Jeff Hartwick.
Here.
Great, thank you. Marcia Newman has resigned, so she's no longer with the committee. Thank you, Marcia. Don't be a stranger. Thank you for all the work you've done up until now. So if I don't hear any objections, approval of the November minutes. Thank you. And chair update. So our fee-free permit parking passed the last board meeting in November. We did not have a meeting in December. The fee-free parking is currently in committee at the city council. I'll let you know when it's going up for a vote. The motion we passed for the neighborhood purpose grant for the CERT kits will be on the budget committee's agenda for February. I'll let you all know about that. For those who don't know, Jonathan Aikman is in custody. He's in jail.
Yay.
And I check the sheriff's department inmate tracker daily. He's there as of 20 minutes ago. So that's good news. There's a Lhasa homeless count coming up later this month. I'm attending, I'm participating in it. Jeff is. I think some of the others I see on this list maybe. If you haven't signed up yet, go to the Lhasa website. There's still volunteer openings. Last I checked for Studio City. Give that a try. And lastly, the Red Cross is in desperate need for blood. I'm a regular blood donor. I just received my 1 gallon pin. And I encourage all of you, if you can, to contact the Red Cross and make a blood donation. Moving on to item 4, public comments on non-agenda items under this committee's jurisdiction. So if anyone from the public has a comment on a non-agenda item, raise your hand and you will get 1 minute. And let's start with, and where did Ira will be keeping time. So Barry Johnson, please go ahead.
Yes, a stakeholder wrote to the SCRA about some tents appearing under the 101 at Coldwater. And I referred her to George and he's already on it. I've also noticed a ton of tents along the 101 from the 170, 134, 101 interchange to Lankershim on both sides of the freeway in the area that has trees and stuff, you know, but it's state land. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of why Caltrans is not doing anything, because anybody there is trespassing. It's state land. There are many signs that say no trespassing, including on freeway on ramps. So I'm trying to get to find out what's going on there. Maybe somebody's heard something.
Wow, that was perfect time.
Thanks, Barry. And next hand will be Patrick Parks. Go ahead, you have 1 minute.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm right now joining the meeting to discuss the homeless encampment at Fruitland and Ventura. I am the first house in when you come into Fruitland right there. I want to basically just have everybody envision, if you looked out your front yard and your windows, what you currently see when you look out to your street. What I currently see is an enormous line of tents and people wandering around, using drugs, dealing drugs, stealing from everybody's porch, and utilizing this neighborhood as essentially a dumpster. On top of that, we don't have any sanitation here for them. This neighborhood wasn't built in this capacity, and we need to do what we can to fix this situation. That's what I'm asking for.
Wow.
Thank you. Karen, go ahead, please.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I'm just kind of piggybacking off of what Patrick said. I'm also on the corner of Fruitland and Ventura. And I'm about, I don't know, 5 feet away from this homeless encampment. I've just moved here with 2 kids. We wanted to have a house and a nice, safe place for them to play in a yard. And 2 weeks after we moved in, this has happened. And just right now, we had to call 911 because the people outside were fighting with a crowbar and were injured and in the street. So it's just a big issue that I just want to bring to your attention in case you don't already know about it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Let's see. Not seeing any more hands. Our homeless committee chair will be making an announcement at the next board meeting that will probably address your concerns about Fruitland and the other encampments and how the redistricting has affected the handling of some of those issues.
All they should do is email George right now. That's all they need to do, nothing more. He'll
Thanks, Barry.
George who?
So sure. So hi, I guess I'll take, or Scott, sorry, it's your meeting. So go ahead. Sorry, Scott.
No, if someone wanted to announce George's email address, that's totally fine for people to contact him directly.
Yeah,
At least for the one on Fruitland. The
yeah.
one,
So I'll pull that up for you right now. I can also tell you that Ramon's office is already aware of the encampment. It is still an unanswered question, specifically how they are going to handle it. Unfortunately, their office has on the one hand they have seems a different approach as it relates to encampments. And so we're just I'm waiting for clarification. His email address is Jorge, Jorge, period, PLASCENCIA @lacity.org. Again, it's JORGE, period, PLASCENCIA @lacity.org. And as well as there is in that area, there's a shift of who the senior lead officer is, or Sean is working with someone, is what I was told, that there's a second officer. And LAPD is aware of it too. LASA is aware of it. And like I said, it's I would argue that a lot of this is going to be in the court of Councilmember Ramon and how much they push other city departments to really improve the safety, both for those that are housed and unhoused. And I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through. It's not acceptable. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
and the other, I believe the one Barry mentioned is a 4118 designation zone from Paul Kokorian, at least Moore Park under the 101 is, and that's also filled with encampments. And of course, Nazarian's office is aware of all of the people on the Caltrans land. They've been made aware of the location of every single encampment on Caltrans land, and the county has been made aware of every single encampment that's on the county land. So there should be more.
And George.
Yeah.
George prefers George, not Jorge.
Fair enough. And Catherine Berger is our new county supervisor. Her field deputy is just getting their sea legs, if you will, and also says that they'll be meeting our neighborhood council at the next meeting or in February, and are eager to hear our concerns. So I'm sure this will be, encampments on county land will be top of the list.
Patty, did you want to say something before we move?
I
to-
just wanted to say for you guys on Fruitland, call CD4. If you go to the CD4 LA City Council CD4 website, you can get phone numbers, and I would just keep calling to talk to George and or the homeless person. I don't even know who that is, but George is our Studio City rep or field deputy. So keep after trying to get him. Yep.
He referred us to Mehmet. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Mehmet, but George pushed us over to Mehmet to work with him. He has started the case and interviewed both Karen and I, along with others, but we have not heard any response back from him yet as a resolution.
That's a really interesting person because Mehmet Berker is CB4's transportation aide. So it's interesting that that would be the person you've been handed off to. But let's perhaps if I could trouble you to email board@studiocitync.org, and a number of us can connect with you offline and try to help push the issue and get it addressed.
Could you give me that email one more time? Board@Studio City.
And sure, board@studiocitync.org, and that'll go to the entire neighborhood council board, and a number of us will coordinate with each other and reach back out to you, presumably Scott from public safety, perhaps myself and another board member, and we'll see if we can't help push the issue.
Very good. Thank you for that. I'll email that shortly.
Great, thanks.
And Karen, did I meet you on Fruitland? I was riding my bike and I think we spoke.
Yes, that was me.
Okay, very good.
I'm in the house on the corner right next to it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for tuning in. So let's move on now to item 5. Sean Smith can't make it. LAPD has a staffing issue with COVID and he's a little busy right now. So we're going to skip Sean's usual update, and rather than go to 6, I'd like to go directly to item 10 for the, let me read you the item. Discussion and possible motion, community impact statement, joint effort. Actually, that's not, sorry. Bear with me here. I'm going to read you the proposed motion. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, requests Councilman Rahman to direct the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to investigate the traffic conditions at the shops at Sportsman's documented in the 2 videos linked below. Unsafe conditions at the Coldwater Canyon Avenue entrance are occurring at a time when only some of the stores have actually opened. The SCNC has received numerous complaints from stakeholders regarding the increase in traffic as a result of this opening, and the videos document what is now a regular occurrence. This will only get worse if the adjacent property gets an exception to the Ventura Cahuenga specific plan to build 500+ apartments utilizing the same entrance on Coldwater Canyon Avenue. And the links to the 2 videos are there. So first off, I'd like to go right to public comment. I'm sorry, I need a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Patty. Now we'll go right to public comment and hear anyone who wants to comment on item 10, the motion that I just read, please raise your hand.
Scott, would you like me to keep the motion on the screen or no?
I think we can go back to it in a minute. I think if anyone has any questions, we'll post it back up.
Okay.
So just going in order on the Zoom window, let's hear from Peter Cole. Go ahead, Peter.
Hi there. I think late last year there was a new traffic study on this property, and what came out of it was what was deemed as significant impacts to the project originally was the corner of Coldwater and Ventura, as well as Whitsett and Ventura, and those intersections were supposed to get dedicated right turn lanes and traffic lights and restriping. And then I guess during COVID, the developer, I may be wrong, but I believe the developer then submitted a new traffic study, and DOT magically changed their significant impact report and let them change this to just restriping. And I've not seen any restriping, but I'm not even sure any of those
That's
mitigations
time.
work. So anyway.
Thanks, Peter. Brandon, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I can see Ben is here. I was actually coming out of Ralph's today, and I decided to make a pass past the Sportsman's Lodge and that entrance. The problem as I see it is that people who've never been there before, they can't see the sign until it's too late. Erewhon blocks the sign, and when you see the Sportsman's Lodge entrance sign just when you're literally right on top of the entrance. So I think that's why people are slamming on their brakes, because in the right-hand lane, the building literally blocks the sign entrance to indicate this is the entrance to the Sportsman's Lodge parking. So to put a sign, maybe, I don't know, on the traffic light heading north on Coldwater to say right-hand lane turn in 200 feet to Sportsman's Lodge, or some other sign where it's visible before you actually get to the driveway would help immensely. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Let's go on to Barry Johnson. Go ahead. Barry?
Yeah, since Ben is on the agenda, I would like to hear from him before I make my public comment, because what I say will be based on what he says.
Thanks. Any other hands for public comment? I don't see any. Ben, go ahead. You've seen the videos, you've heard the motion, and you've heard the public comment.
Absolutely. Thank you. First of all, can I share my screen? I wanted to share something with you guys.
Randy, can you do that? It's not giving me co-host privileges to let someone share a screen.
Yeah, it says host disabled.
That
Yeah.
happened at the sustainability meeting too. I don't think it's possible. They tried it Monday night.
Yeah, Randy, you have to do that if you can hear us, because at the co-host, the way this is formatted, does not have the option to allow someone to share their screen, and I can't promote him.
Who are the co-hosts?
Me and Ira at the moment.
Okay, I will. Scott, are you able to put a document up?
No,
Oh.
I can't on this computer. Ira,
Okay. If I do Ira at Studio City at nc.org.
Yeah, it would be iGold at studiocitync.org. IGOLD. And I'll look out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully this works. Studio City NC. Hopefully I did this right. Okay. Let me just. This is nothing major. It's just a one pager, but it's a visual. And let me send this over, and then I can begin talking. I don't have to wait for this. All right.
Sure. Just let me know when you send it, and I'll put it up as soon as I get it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's on its way. All right. So thank you very much, Scott, for inviting me and Midwood to participate in this committee meeting. And I understand, and well, actually, before I get started, I want to introduce a couple of people that are on the phone. Many of you I've spoken with or talked on these meetings before. My name is Ben Bessley. I'm the Senior Vice President of Development with Midwood Investment and Development, and we're the owners and developers of the Sportsman's Lodge. Almost a year ago, we hired a property manager. His name is Fred Kim, and he's on the call as well. Fred has been doing property management work in Los Angeles for several years. He's been part of the Midwood team for almost a year, and he's the person who I work with on a day-to-day basis, and I'm kind of handing off the projects on the day-to-day operations to Fred. So Fred and I are on the property pretty much every day. And also joining us is Tom Paish, who is the regional director for Ace Parking, and Ace Parking is our parking operator. These gentlemen here in the blue shirts you see are Ace Parking employees, and Tom oversees this team and other teams in commercial and residential properties around Southern California. So so that's who we are on this call. And like I said, really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to talk with you all. First of all, we recognize that this is an issue, that the way that cars are having to navigate across Coldwater Canyon is something that we've got to obviously do something about, and pretty quickly. I think the good news is that the shopping center is actually doing very well. We don't have all of our tenants open, obviously, yet, but the interest has been very strong. We've had, the tenants are doing very well, even though they don't have, full co-tenancy and other, uses to feed off of. But I think people are enjoying it. And that's, the good side of this is that there are cars coming in, which is, a good sign. And obviously then now we have to deal with, the consequences of what happens when, some unforeseen things happen. And probably the biggest surprise to us is that nobody or relatively few people are actually using either entrance on Ventura Boulevard. Tom has the statistics on this, and we picked these statistics up actually from these from the ticket pulls and these card readers. But I think it's it's something like 85% of the traffic is going through Coldwater right now. And that was not what we anticipated. And we think that as the shopping center fills out, and also as people get to understand, that you can actually drive all the way around the hotel and you can get out or get in on Ventura Boulevard, as people have used the center more. Hopefully that will alleviate some of this issue. But we do have we totally understand that we do have an issue that we've got to deal with and are dealing with immediately. And the way we are seeing this, I say this because the folks that live nearby, Peter and Patricia and everybody that lives very close by are obviously, seeing this up close every day. But what we see the real problem right now is that the throughput, especially on the lane to the right, it's on the left side of this photo, the throughput through that lane and the other center lane, we're not going, as smoothly as they could have been going when the project started. And that's what, among other things, or we think that's kind of the principal cause. So it's not the only reason, but I wanted to let you all know that based on conversations that, that Scott, we had when you first sent this over, conversations I've had with Randy about this, conversations I've had with members of the Business Improvement District, that, we are already addressing this. The first thing we did is we asked Tom and his team for some help, and Fred was, Fred and Tom managing this. We started staffing these kiosks when people come in. And so the time it takes for somebody to actually get through is much, much shorter. And Tom, I think, can share some statistics on how that's going so far. The other things that we're looking at doing immediately is really trying to, redirect to the degree it's, practical, people to start using the entrances on Ventura Boulevard more, because there is more capacity over there. And we think over time, with just, either education that we're doing with our shoppers or things they're going to figure out on their own, that'll direct more of the traffic to Ventura Boulevard. We are looking at designs for the control arm placement that would create additional queuing. So that would mean extending these islands further into the property, moves the arm further in. It allows, 2 or maybe up to 3 cars to queue, which in the busiest times, will still require staffing, but at least it gives a greater margin of error there. And then also, we see an issue, and I think this was caught on the videos as well, that sometimes people are trying to make left turns out of here, and that just causes, kind of all kinds of complications. And so we're looking at installing a right-hand turn only sign right at that exit. So these are the ways that we're, addressing this immediately. Do want to, remind everybody that we're here. Fred and I are here on property every day. My email address is, at the top here is my phone number for those that don't have it. And, anytime issues like this come up, we clearly, want to know about it so we can address it. And I'll leave it there. Looking forward to comments and feedback. Sorry, Scott, if I one last thing I forgot to mention. Just that this is not, we certainly didn't anticipate this particular issue, but this is an operating shopping center. It's human behavior, and nobody knows how these commercial properties like this shopping centers are going to work until they're open. So we've been open for 34 days, and we've learned a lot. This is certainly a big one. But we're making a lot of adjustments, and so again, it's very helpful to get this feedback, and we'll have responses to the comments we get here tonight.
So just a couple quick points before I turn it over to everyone else. We saw on the slide some of the longer term things, like maybe moving the gates and having a right turn only lane. What about like for tomorrow? What about just opening the gates so the traffic doesn't back up into Coldwater? Because like your first couple of weeks open, the gates were up, and obviously these problems didn't exist. People just drove right in. I understand you have parking fees and such, but based on, I cycle through that area almost every day, and it looks pretty bad to me. It doesn't look safe, and there's pedestrians and there's people right now turning left and turning right at the same time. The center lane used to be a dedicated white striped turn-in lane to the Sportsman's. Now it's one of those solid broken yellow, and some people are even confused when they come south on Coldwater how to turn left into the parking lot. So maybe in the short term, keeping the gates up and keeping delivery trucks from parking at your loading dock on Coldwater, which in the second video really shows the dangers of what happened when the light turns green and people take off and they're looking to turn in. Also, I think on your slide it did say signage, which was mentioned by by Brandon. And I think Barry wanted to ask a question now. So go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I just had three things that came to mind after Ben spoke. And one, Wells Fargo between Laurel Canyon and Whitsett, when you exit their ATM area, they have their own no left turn sign. It is not a city sign. There's nothing keeping you from putting your own no right turn sign exiting there. And I'm also curious, you say you can't move those arms further into your own property without the city's approval. You really need the city's approval to move those further in on your property. So perhaps 2 or 3 cars could be behind each arm. And the last thing is, I'm just curious if you have been in touch with LADOT with any of these proposed fixes.
Sure. Do you want me to respond to that, Scott, or do you want me to wait until more comments?
Why don't we respond? You can respond to everything all in one fell swoop. Let's see if any of the board or Randy has any questions or comments. Looking for not seeing any hands. Oh, and by the way, Patrick, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, honestly, things like this, Ben, I'm glad you added this to the city. I like it. I've utilized it. I do feel the traffic concern that is currently being talked about. I did notice that as well as I was utilizing the facility. But however, I'm very proud of what you guys have built there. I think it's great for the city. And I'm happy that you guys did that. That's the only thing I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. I also just wanted to mention, I've seen, and I'm not stalking the place. Actually, that's part of my regular bike ride. I swoop down and go down the ramp. I've seen employees with the aprons from Irwan running across Coldwater Park. They park down, I guess, on Valley Heart and down in the residential areas, crossing the street. And there's also a tie-in to this, not just with the shops, but with the residents. Maybe if you can address that. Because as I understood at the land use meeting, when you made a presentation for that, this entrance exit was also going to be used for the 500 plus apartments. And I understand this is brand new and there are some issues, but when you add that additional traffic, I think I'd like to see the traffic study for that, how a gate, if people preferring to come in through Coldwater is going to be able to handle the addition of the residences.
Got it. All right. Any other comments?
Jeff Hartwick. Go ahead.
Yeah, along with what Scott just said, there's a prospective development, from what I understand, at Sportsman's Lodge. And if we have problems here with the Erewhon Center, does this portend even greater problems when we have the Sportsman's Lodge project? So I think in the development stage, that is something that you and your people need to look at strongly, so that we don't have to encounter these similar problems with an even bigger development. Thanks.
And Patty Kirby.
Just a quick question. I just wondered, where are the employees parking? That's my question.
Mhm.
And Randy Freed, go ahead.
Hi. So Ben, I just wanted to, I guess, put out on the record what I'd asked you earlier when we spoke. Is it seems from land use that it's unclear whether or not the paid parking arms was a part of the original plan. And so I just wanted to ask if you can speak to that specifically, and if not, get back to us. Was that a part of the original plan that was proposed, that the gates would be where they are? Because I think it does present a hazard, and I'll echo my agreement with Scott that in the short term, for the sake of preventing a future auto accident, opening the gates, maybe having someone hand out the parking tickets when people, as they approach the complex, because there's only one kind of way in. I would think there's something that could be done in the short term, while more longer term, more permanent fixes are figured out. Thanks.
Yeah.
And we got one more. I know we sort of went out of order here, so just to be fair, we'll give everybody their second bite at the apple. So go ahead, Peter.
Hi, I believe in the original agreement, the employees were supposed to park on the lot, and somebody raised the issue that they've been seeing employees running across the street. I've seen 2 cars now on my block that, because I'm home all the time, I see it, that let's just say they were taking a long walk around to the boulevard. So they were starting to park in our neighborhood. So anyway, thanks.
Thanks for that. So Ben, if you can just go through all those, we would appreciate that. So
Absolutely. I will go through this list I've written down, and please, anybody who had a question, please remember me if I missed it. So let's see. To start with, I think Brandon had a comment about signs on Coldwater. That's actually a great idea. That sign for Sportsman's Lodge is, you're right. It's a lovely sign, but it's large and it sits behind the building. So we can look at that. I think that would benefit everybody. To your question, Randy, about the original plan, there was not on the original set of drawings, it didn't depict any sort of controlled parking, but controlled parking is just kind of a standard practice in any sort of commercial property. And so, it went through review with the planning department and Department of Transportation. And so, we had it approved for the permit. And that, to that topic, I think, Barry, you brought up the question, does something like this actually require approval by the city? It's not approval, like they wouldn't allow us to move it back further, but the Department of Transportation does have to review internal circulation for all parking lots. So we have actually a couple of different ideas of how to make this better. If we could contract it tomorrow, we would, but we would run into problems with inspections and stuff like that. So we do have to submit something, hopefully, with some help from building and safety, and our planners who know this project well. We can get to the front of the queue, but we do have to get a permit to modify anything in the parking lot. No right turn. Barry, you are correct. We don't need a permit to put something on our property, and that's something that Fred has actually been working on, procuring that sign. We think that not everybody obeys right-hand turn only signs. They certainly, I think, obey them less than when they don't look very official, when they look like just a private sign. Even when they're public, it's not 100% compliance, but still what we're intending to do is to put in a sign as soon as possible and get one approved that, is an official city sign as soon as possible, and replace it so that, to as much as possible, we can deter people from trying to sit there and make a left turn. Let's see. Employee parking. Employee parking is, as a condition of the project, employees are required to park on site. We had to and do have installed signage around the parking lot saying this is, employees must park here, must not park off site. It's in everybody's lease. So that's a compliance issue, and that's helpful to know, so that Fred and I can enforce that through the leases, because it is, it's actually a violation of the lease to have employees parking off site. And we do have provisions for it. We have an employee parking plan. They have a very specific area where they're supposed to park. I know I'm missing a couple things.
So delivery truck.
Yeah, again, delivery truck is a compliance issue. That's also, absolutely not allowed. I mean, you're not allowed to stop a truck on Coldwater. And we've caught Erewhon doing that a couple times. And so that's on me and Fred to just reiterate and actually, if we have to, penalize with fees, the tenants that are doing that. So again, that's helpful. We can't be out there all the time. If anybody sees that, please contact me. Photos are great, because we can enforce it with tenants. Sorry, guys, I apologize if I'm forgetting something. The one more item that was raised is the residential project and the traffic that, that would come if that project comes to pass. And I want to be careful here that these are two very separate things. The shops project was an approval, a project that was started before Midwood was involved, and we took over the conditions of approval. We're 100% responsible for it, but it's its own approval with its own set of conditions, its own design. The residences project is, obviously it's a whole new project. And so I'll tell you what, I'll try to address your questions, but I want to make sure that this is a conversation about the shops project. And I'm more than happy to come back and make a much more comprehensive presentation about our residences project. But essentially the residences project is putting all of the parking underground, and that's not something we have the opportunity to do. We would have if we could have for the shops project, but we literally could not do it. And we can create as long a queuing on our property as we need to, because we're going to have ramps going down into that parking. So when we bring forward the designs and share those designs with you and with others, you can see how long that ramp is. We'll make sure to note, what the car queuing is. The traffic studies are going to be analyzing it, so that, absolutely, we would not develop anything more on this property and keep those control arms where they are.
Thank you.
What did I miss?
Is that it, everybody? Did Ben miss anything? Raise your hand if you had a question that Ben.
Sure. The one, the one item that is missed is as it relates to your question, Scott, of what, if anything, could be done in the short term. So like, helping to ease tomorrow, whether that's opening the gates, finding another way to hand out, tickets for, because I recognize that is a revenue generator, but a way to open those gates and not have the traffic queuing up at the, to the detriment of the public.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that we've discussed at Midwood, and we've discussed with Ace Parking. And, I think that what our perspective on this, and I'm actually going to ask Tom to pitch in here after I make this response, and he can add some more kind of data about what we're talking about. But what we're looking forward to is, when the shopping center is completely leased up and all the tenants are open, we want to make sure that we have a controlled parking environment so that we know who's coming in, who's going out, when they're coming and going. The employees are going to have, specific tags, and we can keep track of them, because, tenants are going to want to make sure they have enough parking for their guests. And so the way to do that, is having this controlled parking environment. And, we have implemented some things already in terms of having the gate staffed so that when a car pulls in, and Tom can give us more information on this, it is almost instantaneous that the arm is going to go up. It's not like it was working a few weeks ago. And, if that fails, then yeah, we need to take the next step and potentially lift the arms. But we really want to try to make it work and understand how to make it work as it is, because in the long term, it really has to work this way. So we do see that as, an option if we can't resolve it otherwise. And then certainly, as we were talking about, we have these other ways of kind of extending the queuing, but that's going to take some time to implement. So we have discussed it, but we think that in the medium term and the long term, making it work is important. Getting the shoppers that are coming here, to understand how it works, whether it's through education, through it's just, over time, people are figuring it out, better signage, that kind of thing. So I think the answer is, we could certainly lift the arms tomorrow, but in the medium term and the long term, we think it's better for us to try to solve this, dealing with what we have. So, Tom, did you want to add anything in terms of what you've seen in the last, week or so?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know earlier on the call, it was referenced that the gates were up the entire, month of November. And then we finally dropped the gates in December. The benefit of dropping the gates is we have real data to understand what's going on. I mean, we know it's busy on Coldwater, but now we have real hard concrete data to say 85% of all of our traffic entering Coldwater. So what have we done in the immediate to sort of alleviate the backups on Coldwater? We've placed an attendant on that entrance to hand issue tickets to everybody pulling in there, as was suggested. So as soon as that vehicle pulls up, we have somebody there pulling a ticket for them, explaining how it works, and they understand the center, how to even get out more quickly. So we've done that in the immediate, and by understanding that 85% of all the traffic is coming off of Coldwater, we want to balance that out to get more utilization out of Ventura. So working with Midwood, working with Ben, working with Fred on, how do we advertise Ventura better so that there's less congestion on Coldwater and more utilization on Ventura. So yeah, in the immediate, staffing the Coldwater entry to have somebody actually physically pressing that button for every guest and educating them on how the center works, and then finding ways to sort of reroute people, visitors that they're entering from Ventura. And then, a longer term solution that, Midwood's definitely exploring right now is how do we increase the queuing on property to alleviate some of that congestion out on Coldwater. But yeah, in the immediate, it's staffing that entry and trying to reroute guests to Ventura.
Thanks. We have one more question that we actually have to get to. So Goat Puppet, you have 1 minute.
Yes, and it's good to talk to the Satan worshippers over there at that shopping center. So, Goat Puppet did something historic. Yes, I drove a car for